Hi, in this video I'm going to show you the detailed use of my new free brush set, the Environment Brushes version 2. These are medium advanced level brushes, based on strokes. This means that they are not stamp brushes, and have a somewhat higher learning curve than my other brushes. I have put the link to download them in the description. The download includes a PDF guide, with detailed explanations of each brush. For this video I'm using Photoshop to be able to have several illustrations at the same time and show them on the fly, but the use and the techniques used for these brushes are the same for all other applications. The brushes are natively compatible with Photoshop, Procreate, Clip Studio Paint and Art Studio Pro. So let's start with the first one, the flat brush. I use this brush mainly for the first phases, to paint the sky or the ground. As I said, this set of brushes are brushes based on strokes. This flat brush is for covering large areas and longer strokes, and follows the stroke direction. In Photoshop, if you don't have this option activated, because I don't know why sometimes this option is deactivated for no apparent reason, go to the brush settings and in the shape dynamics section, in the angle jitter control, select the direction option, and that's it. Two other options to keep in mind in Photoshop are the opacity and pressure control. The brushes are already configured with these options, but these two buttons override those settings so that you can modify them on the fly. The left one activate or deactivate the opacity control pressure. This means the more pen pressure, the more opacity. You can see here how it works. If I deactivate it and activate it, activating, I have the control of the opacity, and the same with the size control. Deactivate it, the size of the brush doesn't change, and activate it, I have the control of the size with the pressure. For the first steps of an illustration, I like to deactivate the size control, because I paint with bigger shapes. With this brush you can achieve gradients with a very interesting traditional effect. Playing with the opacity control and pressure, it's very easy. You can also see the soft texture it brings to the illustration. The brushes in this set that include texture share the same texture, so the whole illustration will keep the same style. Okay, I'm going to paint the ground. The same technique. The following brush has a similar use. It can be used for the blocking stage, but also to paint somewhat more detailed areas or more complex shapes. I usually use this brush for painting mountains or the bigger shapes of the background. Play with the opacity control and the size control, and try the configuration you feel most comfortable with at any given moment. You can see how I change the size of the brush on the fly. I do not use always the same brush size. These first two brushes are mainly for the initial phases. Okay, the next one. The Rounded Sketch Leaf and Grass. Okay, this is a very versatile brush. Let's follow the order of its name. And for sketching, I use it to create the sketch of the characters. Here there is the final character, but I have the sketch here. You can see here the sketch lines with this brush. It has this texture that looks a lot like a pencil. and finalize the character from the sketch. This cleaner line is with the other brush that I will talk about later on. Okay, I show all the layers so that they are visible. And the other usage of this brush is for individual leaves. You can see here that some leaves are rounded, so are leaves painted with this brush. You have to use this brush with short strokes. And the other use for this brush is grass. Also with short strokes but longer than single leaves. You will see that to paint the grass we will use different brushes to achieve different textures. Okay, the next one is the distant pine brush. It's for this type of trees and very distant forests. For example, if I wanted to paint here a few distant pines, this brush gives a texture to the edges that resembles the small branches of pine trees. Remember that these are not stamp brushes, you will need some of practice to master each one. And that gives the effect of a small cluster of distant trees. Okay, next brush, hard leaf and grass. This one is for the most visible leaves and grass. You can see the sharpest sheets here. The same on the tree. The use of this brush is the same as that of the rounding brush. Short strokes, imitating a single leaves. I show it to you more in detail. This brush requires a lot of practice in pressure control, but this is its virtue, because by controlling this you will get varied leaves, unlike brushes that generate repetitive patterns. I also use for painting flowers. This brush is very sharp, so it makes the color stand out more, and it's ideal for this style of flowers without a realistic flower shape. Also for sharp grass blades. Okay, next brush, the grass blades texture. I mainly use this brush for shadows on grass and blades of grass. For shadows, because it has a texture that looks quite good on grassy areas. I used it for the shadows. You can see the shadow is not sharp, it's a bit blurred. And for this type of grass blades with a bit more of texture. Okay, next brush, the distant trees guard. This is another brush that requires a bit of technique and practice to get the most out of it. I used it on this mountain, creating this effect of distant forests, and on the trees below. The technique is the same for both the mountain and the trees. It should be used with short and curved strokes to achieve the effect of a small trees and creating the general shape of the mountain. The same with the trees. You have to get used to varying the brush size and creating small variations in color. I will show it in more detail with this mountain. Look at the movement I make for each stroke. It's a short and short stroke movement, but considering the shape of the mountain, and as I said, creating color variations. Okay, the following brush is very similar to this one. It is used for the same purpose, but with a more rounded shape. You can see here the shape of this brush, directly used on trees, with different sizes and colors. Works almost like a stamp. I repeat a lot about creating color variations. You can see here how many shades of green for a tree. And it's the key to getting the most out of these brushes and achieving vibrant illustrations. Like the previous brush, this one requires technique and knowledge of basic lighting to create the lights and shadows of the trees. That is why I said at the beginning of the video that these are medium advanced brushes. Okay, the next brush, the General Soft. This brush has no specific purpose. I use it for general painting and to add some texture. For example, here on the rock, with a little touches to add a texture. To create a small gradients, because it's a very soft brush with a very good pressure control. This brush works best without the pressure size control enabled, but you can activate it if you want to try, because it could also be used for other purposes. Next brush, the Tree Top Basic Shape. I love this brush because I love to paint trees, and with some strokes you can get a very nice tree shape in seconds. Pay attention to how I draw the strokes from the center outward, modeling the shape of the tree. And one more time, creating color variations. This brush works better without the pressure control for the size activated. Here I use it to create the whole tree, but you have to combine it with the brushes I've shown you before. But it's also not bad for distant trees that need little detail. You can see here how I used it on these trees. Let me find the layer. Okay, here for the background of the trees. I like to use this brush only for the general shape and paint the details of the lights with the other two that we have previously seen. You can see the outward stroke. And how is better to deactivate the pressure control for the size, because it better maintains the shape of the tree outline. Okay, next brush, the tree top textured. I use this brush for the background of the foreground trees. This brush adds a lot of texture and detail, as well as small holes that represent the holes generated by the leaves of the tree. The use of this brush is more random, but trying to simulate the shape of the tree, creating groups of leaves. Okay, next brush, Cloud Soft. This brush is very soft and creates fluffy shapes. And the next one is the same, but with a harder shape. Combine them with the following brush, the soft Smudge. I use this blending brush to simulate the watercolor effect. For ghibli or anime style, it's very common to create fades for background textures. Make sure that you have selected the Smudge tool and use it with short strokes. To create smoother clouds works very well. Okay, the next brush, the hard textured. This is a very simple brush. It's just for add a bit of texture. Using it with small touches and overlapping it with several colors to create a varied texture. For example, here on the rock, if I want to add a texture, I combine the colors of the rock to get a realistic texture. The next one is the Splatter brush. Has the same use as the previous one, but with a softer texture. The next one, the Airsoft. I use it mainly to erase. For example, for the bottom of the clouds, and in general to create a smooth transition. The next one, the basic ink, mainly for the line work of the characters. And the last one, the round blend. This is a versatile brush. I use it for several things, but mainly to fill in color or paint flat colors. Or for example, here for the touches of light. With the pressure control allows you to create these little gradients. And that's it, we have made a review of all brushes. I recommend that you modify them to your liking. Changing the pressure control, the scattering, are not fixed brushes, so you can vary them to get new effects or adjust them to your needs. With practice and perseverance, you can get a lot out of them. You can download them from the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video, for your support, and remember to visit my print stores. You will help me to keep creating free content like this one. So one more time, thank you very much and see you in the next video. Bye.